how's it going, Twitch? My name is Skull, and on behalf of East Asia Soft, welcome to today's stream. Today is Sunday, which means that it's time for me to continue my playthrough of Venus Improbable Dream on PS5, and I gotta admit, this is going a lot longer than I expected. I thought that this would be, I thought that I'd be done with this game by Thanksgiving, but no, here we are. Still playing this, so yeah. A lot of exciting stuff, so let me go ahead and pull up my cheat sheet to make sure that I get the good ending. There's only one other choice that I can make in this game that affects the ending, but I gotta make sure I still pick the right one, so here we go. Getting ready to perform in front of an audience. The afternoon has passed dully and at a sluggish pace. I'm still a little worried about Haruka. We'd eaten lunch together as usual, slowly going back to our regular conversations, and she seemed relatively okay as we parted ways to go to our respective classes. Oh yeah, she got knocked over. A jerk bully assaulted the blind girl. Oh. I hope he got the measles. There'd still been something slightly off about her that I couldn't quite put my finger on, though. Perhaps it's just the effects of the awful situation we'd been in, and she just needs time to properly recover from it, but for some reason I feel uneasy. Thinking about it, she hadn't quite been herself at all this week so far, every day having at least one moment where she'd seemed particularly stressed, worried, or annoyed. Considering our proximity to the festival, I can't blame her. But at the same time, our performance of Venus is coming on in leaps and bounds, so in that sense, I don't think we have a whole lot to be concerned about. It's starting to make me think that something else is behind this. Sighing quietly, I accept that I can't really help her if she doesn't want to talk about whatever it is. So in a way, I should just leave her to her own devices, although I still feel a bit unsatisfied about it. Pulling my attention back to the room, I take note of the time on the clock, which tells me that class is about to be over. Hopefully, Haruka will be more settled during our class session. I pack my things away, waiting to be excused. Hi, Dorian, how are you doing? The cue I'm expecting arrives, and I stand up immediately. However, before I can get very far, my path becomes suddenly blocked by two people. Hey, Akane? Huh? Oh, I hit on the auto button. Turn off auto. Turn off auto. Huh? Oh no, turn off auto. How do I turn this off? There we go. I think I turned it off. There we go. Glancing up jerkily, I freeze in shock. Nothing like this has happened since that ridiculous rumor went around roughly a month ago about Haruka and I dating. And that's more than over by now. What someone could want with me now, I have no idea. Though I'm trying to avert my eyes, I fight the urge long enough to steal brief glances at whoever has approached me. I see that it's two girls who sit close to the front of the class, whom I've never spoken to, but have noticed occasionally. However, an extra pang of familiarity comes over me, and after contemplating it for a moment, I recall that they've been among the girls who tried to help Haruka after she got knocked down this lunchtime. I hadn't really paid attention to whether I'd known any of them or not at the time, more focused on getting Haruka out of there. But now that I think about it, these two girls had been there, attempting to dust her off and asking if she'd been hurt. The fact causes me to feel somewhat apologetic towards them, knowing how gracelessly we'd left them behind. Before I can think of anything to say, the girl who called my name continues. We were just wondering, is Fujiwara okay? She looked like she felt really bad. Yeah, I feel sorry for her. Those guys are total jerks, just leaving her there like that. The second girl speaks with a tangible amount of malice in her voice, and her friend looks at her, nodding vigorously. I know, right? They've always been a pair of jackasses, but that was horrible. As the two of them eye each other with firm agreement, I start to feel a sense of appreciation rising up within me among my jitters. It had been nice of them to try to help Haruka when the situation had first happened, but the fact that they're condemning the boys as strongly as I do, I guess, suggests that they're genuinely concerned for Haruka's well-being. Due to the fact that I hadn't said anything yet, they fixed their gazes back onto me, although they seemed slightly awkward about our conversation. So, yeah, we don't mean to bother you or anything, but is she okay? She didn't get injured, did she? It takes me a second to realize the truth behind their slightly timid approach, but it does occur to me that they're being awkward because they know I don't like being talked to and possibly feel guilty for questioning me like this. Let these River City girls avenge Haruka. Yeah, no, honestly. Let them go all out. Do whatever it takes. They seem like pretty thoughtful and considerate girls. Trying to summon some courage based on that, I do my best to raise my head and look them in the face somewhat as I answer. No, I think she's okay. Both girls nod, their relief becoming clear as their expressions change. Oh, thank God! I was worried about her. Me too. Well, that's great. Can you tell her that we're glad that she's alright? Appreciating the thought, I nod diligently, figuring that Haruka might feel somewhat supported by the fact that they've asked about her. Cool, thanks. They glance at each other, communicating silently, and seeming to be about to leave me alone. Though I'll be glad to let them go, there's also one more thing I think they should probably hear from me despite my shyness. They halt just as they're turning to leave, looking back at me curiously, and I take a breath before I continue. She says, thanks for helping. She was just really scared before. I sputter the words out and watch as the girls share a pleased look and then smile at me as they nod. That's okay. We're just glad she's not hurt. Yeah, she doesn't need to worry about it. In spite of myself, I return the smile as best I can, slightly comforted by their kindness. Thanks, Akane. See ya. With that, they turn on their heels and exit the room, leaving me dumbfounded and feeling very strange, but oddly grateful for what just happened. It serves as another reminder that there are nice people at this school, despite those rude boys earlier. I guess I should keep trying to remember that when things feel overwhelming. Coming back into the moment and realizing that I should get moving and heading to our class session, I continue on my way, leaving the classroom behind. As I go, I take a second to appreciate the fact that I'd even managed to jump into the middle of everybody and actually remove Haruka from the ruckus when it had all gone down in the first place. And then she hugged me, and well, it had been very unsettling, but I suppose, given that it had been Haruka, it had been okay. I'm still agape that it even happened in the first place, but at least I was able to comfort her, and on my side of things. I might have frantically enjoyed it, just a teensy bit. Even just thinking that causes me to internally jump at my own insinuations, shocked by the suggestion that I'd want to get physical attention from Haruka. That's not what I meant at all. It's more a case of having hugged someone for the first time in forever. When I ignore the fact that my head had been spinning the whole time, it had felt sort of nice. I'm not exactly going to be swooning in and hugging her every time we meet, but oh man, this is embarrassing to even think about. But I guess I kind of like that it happened. Retrieving my sheet music from my bag, I turned to the beginning of Venus and placed the book on the piano stand. After yesterday's drama, I'm so relieved that today has been pretty normal in comparison. During our last club session, I told Haruka what those girls had said, and she'd been taken aback at how nice they'd been. Of course, she'd still felt guilty for not thanking them herself, but I'd reminded her that they really hadn't been offended. Also, I checked in with her again about any potential injuries from the fall, but the pain in her shoulder had started to subside, so I'd felt a little better about it. She'd probably have a few bruises, but luckily, nothing more than that, it seems. 24 hours later, here we are, about to start practice, and things seem quite a bit calmer. I look to Haruka, who fiddles with her flute for a moment before considering me thoughtfully. Do you mind just playing through your parts before we play together?
I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing in the middle section.
Sure. She nods gratefully, and I put my attention onto the keys in front of me, feeling a little strange about playing by myself. I go through each section as best I can, and it feels odd without her parts to refer to, but I manage it relatively well. I bring the piece to a halt, looking back up at her and bracing for some sort of criticism. I don't think I really did anything wrong, but I guess I sort of expect it, knowing my uncertainty.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Am I sounding okay? Did I do anything badly?
No, I think it was pretty steady, to be honest. You're getting good at it now.
I huff in embarrassment. Thanks. Shall we do a proper run-through now? Instead of jumping at the chance like I'd anticipated, she averts her eyes, growing a little indecisive for a moment, and then looks back up at me.
Could you maybe just play it one more time?
I'm surprised at her lack of confidence, as she's usually the one leading these sessions, rather than taking a back seat to watch me play. However, wanting to help her out with whatever she's trying to clarify, I go along with it, playing through the piece again. When I finish, she nods pensively.
Yeah, your dynamics at the end are getting better, like we practiced yesterday.
I appreciate the analysis, but I'm eager to start playing properly. That's good. Both of us now? Her expression seems to drop ever so slightly before she catches herself and nods again.
All right.
She sets about readying her flute and tracing over her sheet music to prepare herself, and I feel somewhat strange, as though once again she has something on her mind that she's not admitting. However, she looks towards me expectantly, so I put my focus back onto the piano, willing to get on with things now that she seems ready to play. She counts us in, and we begin the piece properly. As I settle into it, I keep an ear on her flute, melding our parts together in my head and following along with what I need to do. It's going quite well so far, and my eyes flicker between my music and my hands, staying as focused as I can. However, once we get towards the middle section that Haruka had mentioned before, something starts to feel off. For a second I wonder if it's me, but then I realize that a crucial sound is missing. Haruka has stopped playing. I grind to a halt myself, suddenly thrown off by the absence of her parts, and look up at her curiously. At first I wonder if she's just gotten confused with whatever she's been trying to figure out earlier, but then I catch a proper glimpse of her face. She stands there with a somewhat somber expression, slowly lowering her flute to her side, and grows completely still like a statue. Haruka? She doesn't respond, her whole body quivering slightly, and then she crumbles, bursting into tears all of a sudden, and I'm immediately struck with a sense of panic, not knowing what's going on or what to do. Poor girl, man! Without warning, she collapses onto the chair beside her, and I jump slightly as she crashes down. Thank God it had been there, otherwise she'd have fallen to the floor. Startled into action, I rush over to her side, not knowing how to help her, but wanting to regardless. Crouching down beside the chair, I watch as her eyes move to follow the sound of my approach, shimmering with tears. Haruka, what's wrong? She can't muster any words, simply sobbing for a moment and swiveling around to feel the edge of her flute case with her free hand. Once she's located it, she dumps her flute into it rather unceremoniously and then turns back around. I guess whatever has been bothering her this week has gotten to boiling point, and she's reaching her limit. She's probably been trying to hide it all this time in an attempt to seem normal, and I feel terrible that she must have felt compelled to put on an act in front of me. I let her cry for a minute or so until she can speak well enough to form a sentence.
I'm sorry, Kakeru. I've just been so stressed, and I can't stand it.
Alarmed by how upset she is, my insides clench as I scramble for what to say. Before I can come up with anything, she speaks again.
It's next week, isn't it?
The festival, yeah.
I usually give up by now.
The words seem to weigh heavily in the air as they leave her mouth, and my mood grows more and more sorrowful by the second, echoing hers. I see. I guess by this point last year, and perhaps for years before that too, she'd had to tell Kudo-sensei that she was pulling out of the festival. She's reaching the point where her fear usually gets the better of her, and she loses hope for her dream. She's always tried again the following year, but as our teachers keep reminding us recently, we're 17 now. There's only one more year left before we graduate. One last chance after this. Time is running out for Haruka to make good on her wishes, and she must be feeling it like a dead weight on her shoulders.
The first year...
She sniffles, clearly overwhelmed, and I don't butt in, not wanting to trample on what she wants to say.
The first year I tried to do this, I made it all the way to the festival. I was waiting in the wings to perform, but it just got the better of me. I thought next time would be different, but I kept getting worse and worse. I haven't made it past this point for a couple of years now.
She speaks haltingly, whimpering between sentences, and her total loss of composure is kind of jarring for me, so used to seeing her quiet and relatively collected. This is clearly a deep sadness that she's never shown to me before, and possibly not to anybody. Not only that, but she seems annoyed at herself for crying so hysterically in front of me, something that I'm passing no judgment on whatsoever, though I can tell that she's not happy with herself over it. She sniffs, wiping away her tears, though they're quickly replaced with new ones.
I just want to do it so much, but I don't think I can.
She doesn't need to explain to me why it's so important to her. It's because of her passion that this fear must hurt her 10 times more than it would anyone else. She shifts a little in her seat, angling her body more directly towards me.
I've been trying to keep it quiet too, so I didn't put you off the performance. I thought if I just tried not to think about it, it'd be alright, but...
So she's purposefully been hiding her feelings so that they didn't have a bad impact on me. That's why every day this week she's been growing increasingly more stressed, and yet barely saying anything to me about it. I can understand her logic, but at the same time, I'm stricken with an awful feeling. Sad that she felt as though she couldn't confess her fears in danger of derailing my confidence too. It makes me feel somewhat guilty, even though I haven't really done anything wrong. I have no idea what I'm about to say or how to go about consoling Haruka, but I open my mouth regardless. I'm really scared too. I know it's not the same for me as it is for you. She probably knows what I'm implying by that. But, well, I might as well just ignore the fact that what I'm about to say is pretty mushy and just put my cards on the table. You kind of motivated me to try, Haruka. I look up to you as a musician. You're so much better than me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this either, but we agreed to do it together, and I'm still willing to keep going. It's genuinely what I think. If a half-assed musician like me can get to this point and still want to keep going, then Haruka must certainly have the fortitude hidden deep inside her. There must be a way for her to tap into it. However, she shakes her head at my words, brushing more tears from her cheeks, which look as though they're starting to sting.
You keep saying that, and I'm not even...
She takes another moment to snatch desperate gulps of air, struggling to calm herself down.
You say I motivate you and help you out, and I keep telling you not to give up, and yet here I am, crying like a child, not even able to keep going. I don't even believe in my own words. I can't take my own advice. I'm a total hypocrite.
She admonishes herself to me until she runs out of steam, sobbing once more. It's truly dreadful to see Haruka like this, especially if that's what she thinks about herself. I know better than anyone what it's like to despise yourself, and I don't want her to feel a single iota of that. I want her to feel like the talented, kind person that she really is. After sputtering for a moment, she continues.
And you know what's even worse? You've been making me feel better too. And I was really happy when you said you'd play Venus with me. I was glad that you'd be there to support me and do this with me, but it's not even going to work.
She trails off, and I'm left a little confused as to what's not going to work. I know that I'm very uncertain about myself, but despite all of that, I still haven't backed out yet, or given Haruka any indication that I might, so I'm not sure what she's not trusting. What do you mean? Her sobs grow a little quieter, and as she sniffles, she raises her head to look at me more directly, though our height difference due to her sitting on a chair means that her gaze falls over my shoulder. Her entire body sags with despair, and her brow wrinkles with anguish.
I just wish I could see you, Kakaru.
Wow. Boy, that had a lot of weight to it, didn't it? I stare at her wordlessly for a long moment, unsure of how to react to those pain-filled words. She manages to speak again before I muster the cohesion to reply.
I've been trying to tell myself that this year will be different because I finally have someone to go through this with me. I've tried to feel stronger, knowing that you'll be by my side, but it makes no difference anyway. Even if you were right in front of me while we played, I wouldn't know. You've gone to the effort to be here for me, and I can't even see you do it, or look you in the eyes to say thank you.
I can see the thread of another rush of tears swelling up within her.
I'm useless.
The dam breaks once more, and she allows herself to be swallowed whole by the wave, covering her face in shame as she cries. Watching her fall apart like this is like watching someone repeatedly kick an innocent puppy or smash your most beloved possession to pieces in front of your face. It's cruel and pricks like thorns, and I just want to make it stop. I had no idea that my presence really meant that much to Haruka. All this time I felt as though she's been the one showering me in praise, encouragement, and motivation. A severely one-sided friendship in which she was the strong one, doting on me. It's obvious to me now, though, that she wants to be able to metaphorically lean on me when times are hard, and that at the same time, she feels as though it's rendered pointless by her inability to see me. Poor girl, man. Hug her, man! Hug her! No, that's not right at all. Sight doesn't matter. I'm still here. She can still get the support that she needs from me without having to see me, and it doesn't make her weak or pathetic at all. Haruka, you... I silence myself mid-sentence as she lets out a whimper, freeing up one of her hands, and tentatively extends it towards me with pleading eyes. It takes me a moment, but then I realize that, like yesterday, this is another instance where she wants me to physically comfort her. Surprised once more that it's something that she actually craves, I gaze at her outstretched hand with nerves, although considering that we've hugged by now, I guess this isn't that big of a deal. Coaxing my own trembling hand to move, I meet her in the middle. Our fingers move simultaneously, sliding against each other's skin until our hands are locked firmly. She feels soft to the touch, though there are spots of moisture where her tears have fallen and become traps between us. The whole thing gives me an odd rush of something I can't fully decipher, though it makes me realize that Haruka and I must be growing closer than I thought for, if we've made contact like this multiple times now. She bows her head slightly, as though thanking me for indulging her, and still feeling so rotten that she's this heartbroken, I don't shy away, deciding to let her hold my hand for as long as she needs to. After a moment, she speaks up again, mumbling apologetically.
I'm sorry, Kakaru. I know you're nervous and everything, but I'm the one causing all the problems here.
The statement feels so repulsive to me due to the fact that I don't believe it at all. And if we're competing for who has the most pathetic problem, then I'm definitely the winner here. She might be blind, but I'm scared of a stupid little spot on my face. Who's the useless one now? No way. That's not true at all. I'm way worse than you. I catch myself just as I'm about to say something I hadn't intended. Freezing in place for a moment, I realized that I was going to mention my hemangioma. Was I really about to tell her that? I'd started to say it because I want Haruka to feel better about herself, but once the words had begun to come out of my mouth, I'd felt an irresistible urge to suck them back in. I can't divulge that information. I know it's Haruka, but still, I just can't bring myself to say it. She doesn't need to know all about that crap. I'd rather she just think of me as nervous and nothing more. Taking a deep breath to steady myself and put the close call behind me, I try to pick up my previous sentiment and alter my sentence to be about that instead. I've got problems, okay? We both do, but I don't think it matters between us, because we get each other, right? She sniffles, squeezing my hand as she takes in my words. And you're wrong, Haruka. You're not useless at all. I know that you're blind, and I know that it must be horrible from you, but from where I'm standing... I steady my voice, which had started to quiver a little. Well, I don't care if you can't see me. It doesn't matter to me. I don't need you to look me in the face or anything. Considering what she'd see if she could, I'd rather she didn't anyway. I'll still be here, and it's not like I need to see you either, you know? We're doing this together, aren't we? I'll hear every note you play, and you'll hear me too. You're going to sound amazing, and I'll be there for every moment of it. I feel as though I'm probably not getting my point across as well as I'd like to, but the words are just pouring out of me in an odd display of forwardness. What I mean is, I'm not going anywhere, even if you can't see me. I'll do everything I can to make sure that I go through this with you, if you want me to. That's the truth. I've wanted to help Haruka realize her dream for a while, but now that the two of us are linked this strongly, in a way that I'm not sure either of us had anticipated, but probably can't be undone, I feel it more than ever. I want to lend whatever musical skills and personal comfort I can muster so that this repetitive torment can stop and she can finally be free of it. I want to give her everything that I'm capable of offering if it will result in her performing at long last. When I stop speaking, the room grows suddenly hushed, and I realize that it's because Haruka had almost completely stopped whimpering. She breathes unsteadily and quietly, contemplating me for a moment, her eyes still askew from my face. The bell rings shrilly in the hallway, announcing that our time is up, and we both jump slightly in place at the sound, though we don't let go of each other's hands. It might be time to go home, but this conversation is nowhere near over. As the silence washes over us again, Haruka removes her other hand from her cheek, her face streaked with tear tracks, and slowly touches the back of mine, still intertwined with hers. You mean that? Yeah. If we can keep going together, if that's what you want. I have basically no experience with being in a situation like this, but I'll still support Haruka as she keeps striving towards her dream, if she feels as though she can continue. Well... I wait for her to continue with bated breath, sincerely hoping that she won't give up. I think I can keep trying then. I let out a breath, so relieved to hear her say this, and she musters a faint smile through her tears.
As long as we really do stick together, you're not gonna leave me, are you?
Her fingers squeeze mine as she gazes hopefully at me. Though my insides practically danced with fear at the thought of voicing my commitment so seriously, locking me into a promise, I try to stay true to what I want to say. I'm sorry about rubbing my nose, guys. Dry. If you won't leave me, then I won't leave you. The words seem to touch Haruka in the right way as her smile grows slightly wider.
Okay, I trust you.
Blissfully, the dense atmosphere begins to lift and Haruka's spirits seem to rise a little with it. Despite the fact that she's still a total mess, it seems like she's been genuinely comforted by what I've said. I can only thank whatever benevolent, possibly non-existent deity had intervened and made those somewhat competent words come out of my dumb mouth. As long as her resilience has returned to her somewhat, then I don't care what happened.
Let's keep going then, shall we?
The thumb of her unattached hand traces over my skin.
I'll do my best not to give up.
Reveling in the sense of her sadness draining away, I nod, knowing that she'll be able to sense it this time, feeling the movement of my head through my body. Me too. Her smile grows a little wider, and now that her awful breakdown has passed, the two of us take a moment to just breathe and let go of our high emotions. That had been a pretty intense conversation. Eventually, I become aware of the present moment once more. And as much as I don't want to disturb the peace we finally found, it's about time we get out of here. The bell went a while ago. Her eyebrows shoot up, as though she'd totally forgotten where she was for a second.
Oh, right! We'd better leave.
I begin to withdraw in order to grab my things, but then I realize we're still holding hands. Haruka seems to become aware of it at the exact same time, and she looks towards me bashfully, a sudden blush rising in her cheeks. Right. My own face turns what must be a rather unflattering shade of puce as we wrench our hands away, pausing for a moment with deep embarrassment. I've never held a girl's hand before, or hugged her until last week. This week. Jeez, my life is really running away from me. After lingering awkwardly for a few seconds, we rise to our feet and separate. My legs scream with blood loss after having been crouched for so long, but it'll calm down in a minute. We put our things away, and since I hardly have anything to do in that respect, I mainly wait for Haruka, hoping with amusement that Kudo-sensei hasn't gone home and locked us in for the night. Once she has everything together, we head out into the eerily quiet hall. The music is just beautiful, by the way. Luckily, the door had still been open as we'd headed out, and we made our way slowly outside. As I turned to Haruka, I noticed that her face has all the telltale signs of someone who had just been crying heavily, illuminated more obviously by the sun. Still, she seems to be feeling better, so I'm hoping that she'll be able to relax and enjoy her evening as she usually would when she gets home. She falters a little with what she wants to say, appearing somewhat tired. It wouldn't surprise me if she felt totally wiped out after being so upset.
Thanks for everything back there. Oh, and sorry that we didn't get to practice properly.
She shoots me a sheepish expression, and I chuckle quietly. It's okay. We'll just make up for it tomorrow.
Yeah, okay.
She almost turns to leave, but lingers awkwardly, seeming to have something else on her mind. For a second, I feel as though she's going to give up on saying it, but then decides to do it after all.
You know,
she fiddles with both her flute case and her cane, one in each hand, looking away shyly for a moment before continuing.
I'm really glad that I met you.
I clam up, unsure of how to respond, though my chest throbs at the sentiment. You too. She smiles once more, and without embellishing on why she'd brought it up, starts to turn away.
See you tomorrow, then.
Yeah. Bye, Haruka. After one last appreciative look, she heads in the opposite direction, leaving me behind to head home, and after watching her go for a moment, I set off on my own journey. In a way, I kind of felt bad for not having anticipated her meltdown earlier, given that she's already told me before that she ducks out of the performance early. Maybe I should have been more mindful of her growing so disheartened around this point. Well, what's done is done. But the most important thing is that she's not going to give up, and it surprises me to know that I contributed to that decision. In fact, the way we seem to have grown closer, both physically and emotionally, over the past couple of days alone is unexpected for me, although I can't say that I'm put off by it. I'm just kind of taken aback. Hopefully now she'll be able to get back on track somewhat, and things will carry on as they have been for a little while longer, before we'll have to take the real deep breath before the plunge. The festival! Let's talk about the festival. When I arrive home, discarding my shoes in the entryway, I enter the lounge to see my parents looking at me with slight concern in their eyes.
Hello, Kakaru. You're home a little bit late. Anything happen?
Ah, right. I'm not sure exactly how long past the bell Haruka and I stayed. I guess they must have been worried that I'd run into some sort of problem at school. I left the club late. I was talking to Haruka. She was upset. I probably should have spared Haruka's dignity there, but I've already said it now. Dad grows intrigued and Mom's brow creases in concern.
Oh, that's not good. What was she upset about?
Not wanting to sell Haruka out on her insecurities, but also wanting to be honest, I decided to give them a very basic outline of what had happened. She was scared about the festival. We talked a lot about it, but I think she felt better afterwards.
Oh, I see. Do you think the two of you are still going to go through with it?
I can't answer that for sure, but she seems to be ready to get back on the horse, as it were, for now, and I'm willing to follow her lead if she does. Maybe. She agreed to keep trying.
Well, it seems like you were a good friend to her, if you managed to make her feel more confident about it.
She eyes me with an admiration, and I shrink away from it slightly, feeling both embarrassed and unworthy. I shrug awkwardly in response and go to head upstairs. However, before I can get very far, Dad's voice calls me back. I think you should give yourself more credit, son. I turn back around, regarding his warm smile. You're really coming on, you know? Joining clubs, making friends with that lovely girl, and lending her a shoulder to cry on. That's a good person right there. I freeze slightly in embarrassment, but I'm also pretty flattered by what he said. I always felt like Dad would never find anything that redeeming about me, considering how delicate I am. I'm not one of the boys or anything like that. Still, he gazes at me with a satisfied grin, and realizing that I should take the compliment, I allow myself to enjoy it. Just a little. Thanks, Dad. Mom smiles too, as if she agrees with Dad's perspective.
He's right. You're becoming a nice young man, Kakaru.
Before I could say anything in reply, she gets up off the couch, heading into the kitchen while shooting Dad a look, and he follows her, smiling at me one last time before disappearing. Knowing that my parents are content with me, being told that I'm progressing as a person like that, is something that I'm not used to at all. But when I get around my embarrassment and self-sabotage, I guess it feels pretty nice. Heading upstairs, I do my best to let myself believe that, between consoling Haruka somewhat successfully and having my parents approve of my actions, I'm doing all right. Haruka sends her flute soaring to its highest note, holding it as the chord I've played underneath it rings out. Then we move simultaneously, me lifting my hands from the keys and the pedal from the floor while she stops exhaling, ending the sound she's creating. The noise level in the room gradually ducks down to silence once more, signaling the end of the piece, and the two of us remain paused, almost as though neither of us want to disturb the moment. However, Haruka lowers her flute from her mouth, turning towards me with a smile, which causes me to relax too, returning it despite the fact that she can't see it. Better?
Much better.
She nods vigorously as she replies, and my shoulders sag with relief. It's Friday, the last chance we'll get this week to practice together, and after Haruka's dreadful breakdown yesterday, things seem a lot better. I guess it might have helped her to spill her concerns out to someone, as opposed to keeping them to herself, or perhaps she's taken time to reconsider things and feels easier about the situation. Whatever it is, I'm just glad that she seems to be back to her normal self, more or less. After practice today has gone pretty well, our practice today has gone pretty well, and instead of getting bogged down in all the tiny details like she had before, she's been noticeably more level-headed about everything. It's been really beneficial for the both of us, returning that sense of support to me that she felt somewhat missing. Our practices have become peaceful and enjoyable again, and our progress with Venus has continued to improve once more. So, thankful for it, I regard her with contentment as she gazes back at me, her expression growing curious.
How much time do we have left?
Only 5 minutes.
Enough for one last run-through then, if you want.
I consider it for a second, a somewhat cheeky idea popping into my head. Actually, would you play your parts without me, just once? I want to solidify them in my head so that I really know what you're playing at what point. I'll read along with my music. She tips her head to the side as she often does when contemplating something, and then nods.
Okay, I don't mind. It's always good for me to be able to play independently anyway.
She turns away from me to check over her sheet music, and I smirk to myself. It's true that it would indeed be useful for me to know her parts as well as mine, but the reason I'd asked had been slightly more selfish than that. I can't deny that, given everything we've gone through in the last week. I just want to listen to her play, without having to concentrate on anything myself. Now that her composure is back in place, her passion has started to seep back into her playing properly. In the spirit of trying to maintain my own ambition and optimism, I'd appreciate a little inspiration, which I know that she can deliver. Keeping my motives to myself, I watch her as she begins to play, my mind still partially in work mode, analyzing the notes and simulating the sound of my own parts in the background. The rest of me simply spectates, enjoying her performance for what is on the surface, though amplified in meaning with the knowledge of how much the piece means to her. The longer it goes on, the more I realize that I really do admire her as a musician, and also just as a person. The way she plays can truly move people, and I feel grateful to have been chosen to explore my own capabilities alongside her. The sound of her flute continues to lull me until the piece is over, and then she looks over at me with an expression that seems to suggest that she already knows the answer to what she's about to ask.
Did I do all right?
More than all right. She shakes her head to dismiss my comment, but her smile stays in place nonetheless, and then she starts to put her flute away.
We'd better get ready to go.
Oh, yeah. Brought back into reality by her reminder, I pack away my things as she does the same, donning our bags just as the bell rings. We wait a few moments so that the main room can clear out ahead of us, and then make our way into the corridor. The air is dense with the giddy anticipation for the weekend that comes with each Friday, radiating off every student. The fact that the festival is next week is definitely adding to it too, as there's an extra feeling of nervous energy in the atmosphere. I don't appreciate that, but do my best to ignore it as I stride alongside Haruka.
So, do you think we sound good enough now to convince Kudo-sensei that Venus was a good choice after all?
She says this with a hint of amusement in her voice, and I can tell that she's probably feeling better about it now. What do you mean? As I'd expected, the corners of her mouth turn upwards slightly as we continue to walk.
You're right.
We both exhale quiet giggles, our minds in the same place, and exit out into the late afternoon light. We turn to say goodbye as always, and once again I'm struck with the odd combination of looking forward to an uneventful weekend and wanting to just keep working. Enjoy practicing at home then. I'll keep reading over the music until Monday.
All right. Well, see you next week, Kakaru. Oh, and,
Her cheeks turn a little pink before she continues.
thanks for everything. I know I've been really crabby this week.
Don't worry, it's fine. Seriously. I cut her off to stop her from apologizing, not wanting her to feel as though she has to, which she really doesn't. You've had a reason to be stressed, so it's no wonder. She seems a little conflicted between accepting my point and fighting it.
True, but you're nervous too. I got so wrapped up in my own problems, I didn't make sure you...
I'm alright. Again, I jump in to put a stop to her fretting, although feeling my worries begin to swell up at the thought of how I'd been trying to squash them so much recently. I have to concede that what I said isn't really the truth. Okay, well, I'm not, but I trail off, unsure of how to express my feelings adequately, while at the same time not concerning her too much. She lets out a sigh, nodding to herself as though she already knows what I'm thinking without me saying it.
I guess we just gotta do what we can, haven't we?
It's a simple sentiment, but probably true. No matter how much we obsess over our feelings about what is going to happen next week, the only thing that we can really do is keep trying and relying on each other in the hopes that it'll help us to overcome it all. Yeah. The conversation grinds to a halt, and the two of us suspended in a moment of shared contemplation. Though neither of us can be certain about anything, she shoots me a small smile in an attempt to keep our moods light.
Still, I do mean it. Thanks for helping me out. If you feel like you need to vent about something too, then you can.
I appreciate the offer, though I'd hate to bring her newly restored confidence back down by dumping all of my crap out into the open. Thanks.
Okay, well, have a good weekend.
You too. See you on Monday.
Bye.
She heads off with one last smile, and after watching her go for a moment, I do the same. I make my way home and patter into the lounge. Dad is sitting on the couch with a newspaper, and I can hear Mom rattling utensils in the kitchen. Hello, Kakaru. Next week, huh? I realize that he's referring to the festival and nod. At the sound of his words, Mom pops her head out of the kitchen door with a smile.
Yes, it's not long now. Are you excited?
As another reminder of just how close the festival really is hits me squarely, I feel my resolve start to falter. It had felt really great to have a more normal, relaxed practice today, but at the same time, that doesn't change the fact that the thing that I've been dreading for weeks is practically around the corner. Both parents eye me with concern, as I haven't managed to answer them yet, lost in my doubt. Mom seems slightly regretful about asking me about it, and moves a little closer to me.
Don't feel too pressured. I'm sure you and Haruka have been doing brilliantly with your preparations, and you've got a whole weekend of relaxation ahead of you now, so you just go ahead and enjoy that.
Dad nods supportively in agreement, and I do the same, although I don't really feel any easier. After glancing at them briefly, with what I hope is a decent smile, I pad off upstairs to my room. Once I get inside, closing the door behind me, I find myself sighing heavily, shrugging off my backpack and sinking down onto my bed. I'm starting to feel jittery. I'd surprised myself with how well I'd managed to just keep playing with Haruka, but now that the big day is exactly a week away, it's kinda inescapable. I'm going to attempt to stand on a stage in front of hundreds of people I don't know next Friday and give what is probably my first ever real public appearance of anything. I can lie to myself all I want, but it's really going to happen. My recent experiences have given me a newfound sense of ambition and motivation to give this terrifying prospect a go. While I'm still willing to follow those feelings, there's a part of me that still thinks I must be out of my goddamn mind for it. I think I just need to find a way to settle down. I mean, I don't know, maybe I'll have a breakdown too, like Haruka had. Oh, I just don't know. I'm not sure how long I sit there, my mind running a million miles an hour, but it startles me quite badly when a knock comes on my door. As I take deep breaths to calm myself down, clutching my chest, Dad pops his head around the door. He shoots me a brief smile before striding over to the desk and putting what looks like some sort of packaged snack onto it. That's odd. Neither of them usually offer me anything before dinner, so that I don't ruin my appetite. Nevertheless, he nods at me before heading back out the room, closing the door behind him. Perhaps Mom's behind on cooking and dinner will be later tonight. My mind had been partially turned to mush from my overthinking, but I still managed to summon enough curiosity to stand up and head over to my desk, examining whatever Dad has brought me. Turns out to be a matcha-flavored chocolate bar, but what catches my attention more is the piece of paper underneath it, folded into a small square. I hadn't noticed it when Dad had put it down, but it had peeked out from under the chocolate bar as I'd picked it up. Confused, I cast the chocolate aside and unfold the paper, having no idea what it is. To my surprise, its surface is covered in Mom's handwriting, some sort of note. Wondering what is unusual enough that she just can't say it to me, I begin to read. As I do, a wave of something powerful comes over me that I can't identify, but it causes my chest to swell with so many feelings all at once. Dear Kakaru, things have been changing for you recently, and we're sure that you've been very uncertain at times. Life is scary sometimes, and we know that just as well as you do. We were kids once too, after all. However, what we've seen from you in the past 2 months has been wonderful. You've really come out of your shell, begun to flourish as a young adult, and have made us very proud. Because of that, we're absolutely certain that whatever you do in the future will also make us smile, because you're a thoughtful, talented, and focused individual who we can take pride in, no matter what. So whether you play at the festival or not, we want you to know that your validity as a person will never change in our eyes. All we want in life is for you to be happy, to enjoy your youth, and to find things that make you feel as though every day is worth living. Reach for your dreams, Kakaru, whether they be playing music on stage or simply going to school with a smile on your face and laughing with your friends as you deserve to do as a carefree young soul. And please remember one thing above anything else, we'll always be proud to call you our son. No matter what you do, we'll always be by your shoulder, watching with admiration and celebrating your every success. All our love, Mom and Dad. Aw, that was so sweet! It seems to take me a while, but once I start reeling from the sheer weight of what I've just read, my eyes begin to prick with tears. Alone in my room with no one else to see it, I let them fall. This is the most touching thing my parents have ever done for me. I knew that they still cared for me despite all of my issues and drawbacks, but I never realized they felt this strongly about me. It's easy to assume that you're a disappointment in circumstances like mine, and that even if your parents accept you, there'll always be some overarching flaw that prevents you from ever truly becoming something great in their eyes. Reading their honest feelings on paper, I realize now that I was wrong about that. My parents love me. Like, really, really love me. And even though I've been a total emotional and social basket case for almost the entire duration of my life, I've pushed the two of them away, neglected them, and shut the door in their faces when all they ever wanted to do is help me. And apparently they still love me anyway. What have I done to deserve such kindness? I sit there for quite a while, tears trickling down my cheeks, and my throat tight with bursting emotions, holding the note in my hands and rereading it over and over again. I guess in their eyes, I haven't screwed anything up at all, have I? I'm not a monster, or a freak, or a loser, or a failure. I'm just Kakaru. The same son that made them smile back when I was a child. That little boy whose image I cling to with envy. He never left. I might not be able to feel like that kid anymore, but my parents have never stopped seeing him in me. They're amazing. The best parents I could possibly ask for. And I should really say thank you, or at least do something to return some of their love to them. Placing their note on the desk and grabbing a bunch of tissues in an attempt to try to make my face look less like a mess, I pull myself together and creep out of my room, slowly descending the stairs. The noises I hear tell me that the pair of them are in the kitchen. As I'm hovering in place timidly, Mom notices me out of the corner of her eye as she turns to take the pan off the stove.
Are you alright, Kakaru?
She fusses for a moment, draining whatever had been inside the pan and turning the heat off before drying her hands and coming out of the kitchen to gaze at me inquiringly. After a few seconds, Dad also appears from behind her, evidently following her lead and wondering what's going on. The words of the note the two of them had written still going round in my mind. I look between them both, meeting their eyes as I struggle with what I could possibly say to thank them for being such selfless, caring parents. I feel as though my tongue won't work properly, and I stammered awkwardly as they continue to regard me with patience, waiting for me to find the courage to come out with what I want to say. As I look at them, my emotions whirling inside me like a vortex, I almost give in to the strong desire to change my mind and just leave the room. Then, to my surprise, something seems to snap inside me and a completely alien sense of firmness replaces it. I can't just stand by and not let them know how I feel about everything that they've just told me. I can't just meet it with the same blank indifference that they've had to become used to from me. I need to open myself up to them. I need to stop making excuses. I close my eyes, taking a deep breath to center myself, and once I've let it go, I fix them with an unflinching gaze, letting what I really want to say just flow out of my mouth. I'm so sorry for everything. I've gone about this whole thing completely wrong. My voice raises in pitch slightly as my upset begins to spill into it, but I keep talking. I didn't mean to push you both away. I just got so freaked out with everything. People started hurting me over this stupid thing. I flick my hand over my hemangioma, still hating the way it feels under my fingertips. And I didn't know how to handle it. I thought that if I pretended not to exist, then no one would judge me, so I just stopped trying to live. I know I shouldn't have done it, but it felt like the only thing I could do. And then I started to really hate myself because I shoved you both out as if we didn't even know each other anymore. As my torment of words keeps coming, my parents slowly seem to shrink into sadness, their expressions growing more pained by the moment as they recall the hurts of everything I've mentioned. I can't stand to see their anguish, but I also can't stop the rush of emotion. I didn't mean for any of this to happen, and I really need you both to know that I'm so sorry for the way I've been. I would have deserved it if you'd started resenting me because of it. But even through all this crap, you've stuck by my side anyway. But yeah, I'm really sorry, and... Unable to prevent it, I begin to cry in front of them, feeling ashamed. Yet at the same time, I don't see the point in hiding it now. I've already spent so many unnecessary years doing a whole heap of bullshit in order to not look weak in their eyes. And since their respect for me apparently hadn't diminished at all, there had been no value in any of it. Now that my uncharacteristically strong need to speak is running again, I start to get tongue-tied again. It's running out. But I muster the courage to say one last thing. The one thing they need to know more than anything else. When it slips out of my mouth for the first time in an unfathomable amount of years, I feel the foundations of the wall I'd spent so long building up crumble, crashing to the ground and leaving nothing standing between us but empty space. I love you. As if the words have freed me from all of my awkwardness, or at least just enough of it to matter, I step into that empty space, closing the gap between me and the person closest to me, which happens to be my mom. For the first time in so long I can't remember, I wrap my arms around her in a hug. It feels incredibly alien to me to be doing this, but it's so overdue that I refuse to listen to my insecurities' wails of protest. Mom grows wooden in my arms, freezing for a moment, as though she can barely believe what's happening. But then, as if in slow motion, she gingerly puts her own arms around me in response.
Oh, Kakaru.
A huge shift seems to take place in her body as she holds me tighter, leaning into me and sighing heavily. I wonder how long she's been hoping that this would happen again. Did she ever start to believe that the day would even come? As we stand there in this embrace, something small becomes suddenly apparent to me. Something else becomes suddenly apparent to me. When did Mom get so small? I swear the last time I hugged her, she was taller than me. Has it been that long? God, I've neglected her so much, both of them. Sensing movement, I peek open my crying eyes to see Dad moving in, snaking his arms around the two of us. We wordlessly shift until we're sharing the hug equally, bound together as all three of us battle with our emotions. I'm not sure how long we stand there clinging to each other and weeping, but eventually Mom pulls back to look at me properly, Dad following suit, and we break the contact. What a tear-filled episode, huh? It's so nice to see them all getting it out, though. Wiping my eyes clumsily on my forearms, I do my best to collect myself, and when I look at them again, I can see that both of them are also fighting off tears, even Dad. Mom pipes up, her voice wavering with emotion.
I can't tell you how happy you are to hear that, Kakaru. And don't ever think we'd resent you. We love you, too. How could we?
Dad steps up to her side, putting an arm around her comfortingly, and nods. Yes, son. You might have made some mistakes in how you've handled this situation, but we've probably made some too. Nobody's perfect, and neither of us blame you for how things become. I nod silently in response, attempting to dry off my face more thoroughly and sniffling.
We're happy to support you no matter how you choose to live your life. But after hearing you say all of that...
She sniffles again, and then her face brightens as she beams at me, a sudden ray of sunshine among the pain.
Well, we're just so glad to have you back, Kakaru.
Dad bursts into a pleased grin at her words, and I can't help but do the same, feeling as though the sadness is lifting from the room. I guess my gratitude and apology, as well as my long-awaited expression of love, has made it all worth it in their eyes. The three of us chuckle slightly, united in our relief that the gap between us has been bridged at long last. And as I gaze at the pair of them, I feel as though a weight has been lifted. I know that my parents love me, And now they know that I love them too. More than that, it seems as though the struggles of our past have been forgiven, ready to make way for a better future for our family. You're going to be alright, son. Everything's just fine between us, understand? Yeah. As we share a smiling gaze, all three of us moved tremendously by what happened. I truly relish the looks of relief and elation on my parents' faces. It bolsters my self-esteem just a little, knowing that they're smiling because of me. The evening passes quietly. I've just finished my homework, and as soon as I close my books and put them aside, my gaze falls onto the note my parents had written me once more. A small smile automatically spreads across my face. I think I'm going to put it in my bag for school so that I can see it whenever I feel like it. It'll probably give me a little boost whenever I read it again. As I'm organizing my textbooks for Monday morning so that I don't have to think about it when the time comes around, I hear footsteps approaching my room, and as I'd anticipated, a knock comes on the door. Yeah. Mom enters the room, beaming at me as she comes over. The nice feelings from earlier clearly hadn't waned much for her, and I could say a similar thing for myself. Here you go. She passes my dinner to me, and I take it carefully, making sure not to drip it as I rest it on the desk. Thanks. No problem. Seeming more content than I've ever seen her in a long time, she leaves me to it, and I turn around to enjoy my meal. However, just as I'm about to plunge my chopsticks into the bowl, something causes me to halt in my tracks. Thinking about everything that's been said tonight, or at least communicated through other methods, I feel as though me holing up in my room is a bit redundant now. Do I really need to hide from my parents this much, now that we've begun to reestablish our family bond? It doesn't seem right to me. It feels as disrespectful as it probably has been all this time. Only I hadn't had the morality to acknowledge it before. I feel like I should do something. Regarding my food with an odd combination of guilt and determination, I pick up the bowl and elbow my door open, exiting into the hallway and down the stairs. I peek into the dining room, spying the scene that Mom and Dad must see every single day. The two of them sit at one end of the table, eating their meals in relative quiet and sharing the occasional bit of chat. They've done this for a long time, living out their evenings, and in fact most of their days, as though I don't exist. It must have hurt them a lot to know that their son was still there, but was so adamant about hiding away that they couldn't even enjoy a simple meal with him. That's not fair on them. Shyly, I inch my way into the room, feeling strange about it, as though I'm somewhere I'm not supposed to be. But the both of them turn to face me. The familiarity of our earlier moment comes rushing back to me. They're my parents, and they love me. Of course I'm supposed to be here. I place my bowl down in front of a free seat and sit down awkwardly. There's a moment of silence where everyone seems to hold each other's gaze, and then both of my parents break into pleased smiles, seeming to beam excitement and gratitude towards me through their eyes. Dad reaches out to me, squeezing my shoulder with a grin, and then goes back to eating his food. After shooting me a happy smile, Mom does the same, and taking a breath and settling into what might become a new routine for me, I pick up my own chopsticks. The three of us eat together, and by any family standards, it's completely ordinary, uneventful, and boring. Yet for me and my parents, it's something much different. Monday. The beginning of a very daunting week. While I'm fully aware that time is ticking ever closer to the festival, I'm somewhat calmed by the closeness that I'd managed to enjoy with my parents over the weekend. The note and the emotional moment we'd shared are still fresh in my mind, in a comforting way. I'd eaten dinner at the table with them every night since Friday, and though we haven't had a whole lot more conversation than we usually would, there's been something different about it. A pleasant and less nervous experience for me. I get the feeling that Friday had marked a new leaf for all of us, drawn a line under our previous distance and awkwardness around each other, and triggered the beginning of more open dialogue between us. It's something that I'm looking forward to getting used to, and something that I cherish more than ever now that I have a challenging time waiting for me just around the corner. I cast around the room, making sure I have everything I need. As I zip up my bag, I spy my parents' note tucked into one of its inner pockets, and smile. It's definitely coming with me every day until the performance now. Shouldering my bag, I head downstairs. Spotting Mom in the kitchen, I pop my head in to say goodbye. I'm off now, Mom.
Oh, all right, Kakaru. Do you think you could do me a favor when you get to school?
This is an unusual request.
I was thinking last night about how you said that Haruka's parents haven't bought tickets to the festival yet.
I'd mentioned it in passing when she and Dad had been asking about the performances.
It'd be such a shame for them to miss out on a chance to see their daughter perform, and the tickets must have almost sold out by now. I was wondering if you'd be able to find out their home phone number for me. Your father and I would be so pleased that you and Haruka have become such good friends, and we'd love to meet her parents. If we had a nice chat with them, we might be able to encourage them to get their tickets before it's too late.
That is a fair point, and thoughtful of her to want to make sure that Haruka's parents are there if we want to make it to the stage. I'm pretty sure that Haruka herself would be disappointed if she really did manage to perform but her parents weren't there to see it. However, I'm not sure how well this will go over with Haruka. She might see it as a fruitless task for anyone to try to convince her parents to buy tickets, considering that they seem pretty sure of the fact that she won't perform due to past events. I don't know if it'll work, but I'll give it a shot anyway. I can ask Haruka today if you want. Mom smiles in response, nodding enthusiastically.
Thanks, Kakaru. It'd be wonderful to meet them, or even just to have a talk about things. I'm sure they'd come around to the idea of going to the festival eventually.
Hopefully so. Okay, I'm heading out now.
All right, have a good day.
We share a brief moment of relaxed eye contact, another new step for us in this adventure of growing close again as mother and son, and then I say my goodbyes and head out the door. As I set off on my way to school, I dig my phone out of my pocket and start typing, setting the first part of my apparent mission for today into motion. Hey Haruka, do you want to have lunch together today? In a way, I don't know why I'm asking, since our lunchtime get-togethers are pretty much a given at this point. She replies pretty quickly. I was about to ask you that myself. I'll meet you on my floor. After working through the morning's classes, Haruka and I had met as planned, walking down to the fields once again. Settled on the bench with our lunches on our lap, we share scattered chat as we eat. I give it a few minutes before broaching the subject of her parents, so it doesn't seem like I'm immediately bombarding her with the question, and bring it up when we hit a lull in the conversation. By the way, my mom asked me about your parents this morning. She looks up from her food curiously, seeming slightly taken aback.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, both my parents have been going on about how great it is that we made friends. A slightly amused look of knowing spreads across her face, telling me that her parents have probably done something similar. Mom was saying it'd be nice for her and Dad to meet your parents, just to get to know them. She was wondering if you'd be okay giving me their phone number to give it to her. Haruka's eyebrows raised slightly.
Oh, well, I don't see why not, really. I think my parents have been wanting to meet yours too, but haven't gotten around to trying to organize anything. Yet. Also, you know, 'cause it's so near the festival and everything.
Her demeanor shifts as the subject of the festival comes up, her shoulders sagging slightly as her brow wrinkles. It almost causes me to do the same thing, reminded of the terrifying event ahead of us. Yeah, that makes sense. Do you, I don't want it to seem like I'm prying, knowing that it might be a sore subject for her, but I ask regardless, keeping my tone of voice gentle. Have you bought any tickets yet, now that it's closer to the time? She shakes her head a little tensely.
No, not yet.
Oh, that sucks. Wanting to present a potential solution, wow. Without sounding like I'm meddling, I clear my throat and continue. Well, my mom was wondering about that too. Maybe if they all get talking, then your parents might want to get theirs too. She considers it for a moment, her eyes wandering across the fields.
Maybe. I'm not sure. Although, won't the festival be pretty much sold out by now? I don't know how fast the tickets tend to go.
She does have a point. Any tickets that are left probably won't be in great seats either. Well, it's worth a try, I guess. Wouldn't Haruka's parents be pleased to watch their daughter play, even if it's from the back of the room? I'd assume so. Well, we could still try, and to be honest, I think my mom just really wants to meet your parents in general. She's been waffling on about it for weeks. I try to inject a bit of humor into my voice, and at least some of it reaches Haruka as the corners of her mouth turn upwards a little.
That's sweet of her. I guess I can give you our home number then, if you want.
Only if it's okay with you and with your parents. She seems a little hesitant, but gets out her phone anyways. It's probably mostly out of being convinced that her parents won't buy tickets, but she still gives me the number, which I save to my phone. So, it's alright if I text this to my parents?
Yeah, it's fine. Mine'll probably be pleasantly surprised by the call, to be honest.
Okay, thanks. Wanting to get it done before I forget, I compose a message to Mom, who will probably be the only person home today, and copy the number into it before sending. Once it's gone, I put away my phone and get back to my lunch, wanting to change the subject. Anyway, how many times do you reckon we'll get through this Venus today? Haruka smiles slightly, clearly appreciating my attempt to bring the conversation away from the festival.
It depends on how fast we can get started, I guess.
Hoping to make her laugh, I put on a somewhat comedic tone. Alright, I'll make for the club at super speed then. She hums a small giggle, and I feel a slight sense of relief. As it happens, I did indeed race to the clubroom as soon as the last class of the day was over. I'd managed to make Haruka laugh as I'd burst through the door, delivering on my silly promise, and then we settled down to play. I've already lost count of how many times we've restarted the piece and concentrated on certain parts to tighten them up further, but all is going well. As my fingers move along the keys methodically, I feel myself starting to develop that muscle memory that Haruka had mentioned to me before, my body remembering how to move without me thinking about it quite as hard as I used to. We head into the final section of the piece, but to my dismay, my phone suddenly buzzes against my leg, jolting me so much that I almost have a heart attack due to how unexpected it had been. It results in me accidentally bashing the keys, producing a sound like a toddler swatting at the piano haphazardly. Haruka lets out a giggle mid-note, her flute screeching momentarily before she moves it away from her mouth. Sorry.
What happened?
I got a text that scared the hell out of me. While she chuckles, I yank my phone out of my pocket, figuring that I'd better check it, considering that the only person I ever really got text from is in the room with me. To my surprise, it's Mom, so I open the message, reading it curiously. Oh, Haruka, it's my mom. She said she's already talked to your mom and had a good time getting to know her. Seems like they talked for a long time. Haruka's face brightens further upon hearing this.
Oh, that's nice. I'm sure my mom enjoyed it too. I don't think she really talks to that many people outside of our family.
No, my parents are the same. I gaze at Haruka, trying to gauge what her reaction might be if I tell her the rest of what my mom's text contains. She seems quite relaxed in general, so I go ahead, mentally crossing my fingers. There's something else as well. Apparently, after chatting, your parents decided to buy their festival tickets in the end. I think they've got them now. Haruka's eyebrows arch in surprise as she regards me.
Really? They actually bought them?
There's a hint of disbelief in her voice as she asks me this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think my mom said something about them all going together to support us. I guess they thought it was a good idea.
That's...
She pauses for a moment, seeming to be turning the matter over in her mind, and then looks more directly at me, her expression starting to convey more optimism.
I'm really surprised. I didn't think my parents wanted to.
She looks a little vulnerable, but visibly begins to process that her parents do want to support her in person, and evidently have faith in her ability to perform after all.
Please thank your mom for me. She must have been really nice on my behalf.
I'm sure your parents didn't need that much persuading, but yeah, I'll say thanks anyway. She nods, seeming somewhat reassured now that she knows that her parents will be at the festival. I guess the fact is growing more comfort than worry for her, which I'm glad about. Her expression grows almost amused as she contemplates something.
I bet Mom's excited to go somewhere with a friend's parent too. We've not really had that much.
While she doesn't get upset about it, a poignant glint appears in her eye, and I empathize completely. Did you not have many friends when you were younger then? I don't want to push a delicate issue, but she doesn't seem too affected by it, probably out of having to get used to her circumstances by now.
Not really. I've had a few here and there over the years, but they always seem to disappear after a while. I think it's because I'm disabled. It probably felt weird for them to spend too much time around me.
She trails off, looking pensive, and a wave of sympathy washes over me.
They always tended to just phase me out in the end, but I understand how it happens, so I'm not mad.
That's pretty mature for her to have that perspective.
Anyway, I guess that doesn't matter so much now since we have each other.
She regards me with a small smile, and I find myself mirroring it. It's very true that any half-baked friendship I'd experienced before now pales in comparison to what Haruka and I shared over the last couple of months. I should probably count myself lucky to have enjoyed any of it at all. Yeah. Haruka seems to contemplate something else for a moment, and then decides to come out with it.
It's kind of funny, isn't it, how things have happened? I never would have guessed how we'd meet each other like we did. Ended up where we are now.
She looks towards me with a sort of serendipitous expression, and I can't help but agree. I thought the exact same thing. She nods contentedly, seeming to be pleased with how we've come to our present circumstances, and I feel the same.
And who'd have thought that a little music box melody would turn into something so big for us?
No, you're right. The little trinket has ended up holding much more power than even Haruka could have known. We smile wordlessly for a moment, freed temporarily from our festival worries, and I revel in the feeling before Haruka regains a more focused expression.
Anyway, shall we carry on?
Sure. I turn my sheet music back to the front page, but before we can begin another run-through, an idea strikes me. By the way, if you find out what seats your parents have got on their tickets, I could try to give you an idea of where they'll be in the auditorium if you want. I remembered just now, during her breakdown last week, when she'd cried, one of her biggest upsets had been that she wouldn't be able to see me as we perform, and I'm sure that it extends to her parents too. Now that they're definitely going to be there, I realized that she'd probably appreciate having at least a vague mental picture of where they'll be sitting on the night. It might give her a little comfort to know that if she looks in that direction, even if she can't see them, they'll be there.
Oh, yeah, actually, that'd be good. I'll let you know what their seats are when I find out.
Cool. She gazes towards me gratefully.
Thanks, Kakaru.
Knowing that it probably means more to her than she's letting on, I feel somewhat satisfied that I can help, even if it's only by a little. No problem. Fueled by the pleasant atmosphere, we forge ahead, taking up our instruments once more. The sounds of Venus fills the room for a while longer until a sudden knock comes on the door, startling us. Kudo-sensei enters with his usual grin, although he seems to be extra enthusiastic today. I guess it's due to our proximity to the festival. Hello, you two! I'm just here to catch up on what you're doing, and tell you a few important things. Haruka seems to relax slightly as she recognizes his voice, although I can sense that now familiar air of mild irritation coming from her at his presence. How have you been coming along? Is the piece sounding better now? We both nod, and I work myself up to say something, figuring that Haruka probably won't want to engage him much. However, she surprises me by answering him first, beating me to it.
Yes, it sounds great. We figured everything out.
I guess this is her attempting to bring things full circle and defend our choice once again, with proof to back it up this time. My input mostly redundant now that she seems to have found some courage, I stay quiet. Kudo-sensei's eyebrows raise with intrigue at her response. Ah, that's very good to hear. Would you mind if I listen to it so I can get a proper idea of how it sounds? Haruka and I automatically look towards each other to confer, and she nods subtly to me, signaling that she's okay with giving him another preview. Okay. She takes my reply as a cue to get ready, and I do the same, while Kudo-sensei steps back to watch us both properly. It feels just as awkward as it had last time we did this, but the pair of us have more confidence in how we've managed to make the piece sound now, so it does start to lift slightly as we get down to business. We begin the piece, and I'm strongly aware that Haruka is putting her all into it, giving it her best to convey to Kudo-sensei that we know what we're doing, and I follow her lead, playing as well as I can. It runs as smoothly as it had before he'd come in, and when we bring the piece to a halt, looking towards him for a reaction, he claps his hands together, his smile widening. Very nice, actually. You've obviously put a lot of work since the last time I've heard it, and it's paid off. I like the arrangements too, and how you've designed the parts, designated the parts. It's light but effective. Yes, I'm quite happy with it. Pleased at the improvement of his opinion, I suppress a little victorious smirk, taking a sideways glance at Haruka. She seems to be doing the same, and I'm sure that if we could meet eyes right now, it would trigger a stifled giggle at our success. Now, having said that, I need to fill you in on what I told the group at the start of the club session. We both turn to regard him more seriously, picking up on a slightly more businesslike tone, although his expression doesn't grow any less cheerful. Firstly, I should impress upon you both the importance of staying diligent during this time. We've got 4 days left until the festival, which isn't a lot, but it doesn't mean that we can't go getting complacent. However, given what you've just shown me, I don't think there's too much need to worry. Just make sure that you stay on top of your game, okay? He smiles at us contentedly, seeming to be genuinely trusting in our abilities as a duo now, and we both nod. However, it's his next point that starts to create a growing trepidation within me, and I'm assuming within Haruka too. Secondly, there's going to be a stage rehearsal on Wednesday in the auditorium. This will give us and the stage technicians a chance to map out everything we need microphone-wise, and we will be able to organize our entry, exit, and onstage formation. Naturally, the two of you will have a separate run-through on the stage, so rehearsal won't take as long, but it is very important, so keep that in your minds. As we listen to him begin to describe this stage rehearsal, I feel as though a rock slowly drops in my stomach. I don't like the sound of this. Judging by what he's saying, we're going to be practicing our walk on and off the stage and essentially running a mock performance in front of the technicians who will adjust the audio setup to make us sound good through the speakers. Been there, very important. It all makes sense as something that needs to be done, but the thought of it fills me with fear as though it's going to be a real performance. It's only a practice run, but Well, I think I just don't know what to expect, having never done this before. I'm not sure who the school gets to do the sound engineering, but I don't feel comfortable with the idea of a bunch of random strangers suddenly descending on our practice with microphones and other equipment, examining us closely. I've never even been to the school's auditorium before. I don't think I'm 100% sure which building it's in. Kudo-sensei continues to talk, so I try to shrug off my nerves and listen to what he has to say. I take a quick peek across at Haruka at one point, who also appears to be growing tense. I know that she's done rehearsals before, but it must still be a scary prospect for her too. After informing us on everything that we need to know about the rehearsal, Kudo-sensei wraps up his speech, regarding us both with an encouraging expression. I do think that the both of you have done very well in getting this far, so I want to say congratulations to you for your efforts. All you've got to do is keep up the good work and focus on really giving it your all, and you'll do a wonderful job on the night. No doubt about it. For a moment, I'm struck with a genuine gratitude for his apparently sincere words, glad that he thinks that we're actually contributing something positive to the club for once. He straightens up, nodding at us both with unfailing optimism. Good job, both of you. I'll see you again soon. He pulls the door open, and I watch it swing back on its hinges to conceal him as he leaves, closing behind him and pulling us back into our undisturbed safe zone once more. As silence reigns, both Haruka and I swivel to face each other slowly, a sense of worry filling the air. I guess we really are getting close to it now, aren't we? It's not like we hadn't already been aware of how many days we had left before the event. However, now that it's been stated in such bold terms, alongside the details of our rehearsal in 2 days, the almost crushing sense of worry is pretty much impossible to ignore. Taking a deep breath, I try to exhale as much of my jitters as possible. Though I look at Haruka's troubled expression, I can't help but mourn the loss of the nice atmosphere we'd been enjoying earlier. Yeah. Okay, and where's the save button? There we go. Save right there. Save again just to be sure. And that will bring today's stream to an end. Whew! Lot of emotions this episode, huh? Wow. Okay. That was day 10 of Venus Improbable Dream. Seeing as next Sunday is Christmas Day, I don't think that I'll be doing this then, but I should be coming back the week after that to continue, so yeah, which will be New Year's Day. Interesting how that works out. So, well, that was... I love this game. Such a beautiful visual novel. Bit short, bit simplistic, maybe even you might call it a bit predictable, but it's beautiful. I like it a lot, and I hope you guys too. What platform am I playing on? I am playing on PlayStation 5. But I think it's also available on... I don't know where else it's available, actually. I know it's on PlayStation. That's all I know. I could look it up real quick, actually. It is on Nintendo Switch. It's on Xbox. Okay, it's on everything. It's on Switch, PlayStation, and Xbox. So you can get it just about anywhere. So yeah, again, next Sunday is Christmas. I will not be streaming it then, but I will be streaming it the Sunday after that, which is New Year's Day. And then I'm actually going to take another break because I'll be on vacation after that. So, yeah, but that's perfectly fine. Just, more of this game to look forward to, I guess. Thanks to Lamb and Dorian for being here. Shout out to the lurkers. We peaked at 8 people watching at one point, which is amazing. Clearly a lot of you like this game. So if you want to get caught up on what's been happening so far, we have all of the previous streams on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/eastasiasoft. So every single one of our streams here on Twitch is archived there. So if you ever miss one or you want to get caught up on a visual novel I'm playing, then head over there for that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, shout out to you as well. I will be back on Tuesday to play something else. Not sure what yet. Don't know what yet, but anyway, I'll be back on New Year's Day 2023 to continue my playthrough of Venus Improbable Dream. Until then, on behalf of East Asia Soft, I have been Skull. Have yourselves a great day and a great week. I really hope that Kakaru hugs Haruka next time, and I will see you all later. Bye-bye.